Some of the most viral masculinity advice online is built on real but incomplete data, and it can steer guys into some dark places. My team pulled together 10 clips that are making the rounds right now. Most of the creators behind them are people I respect, and I suspect many of them would actually agree with the nuance we're going to add today. I also want to say this, making short form content is hard. It's hard to remain accurate and not do damage. It's much harder than I ever imagined before building this channel myself. I couldn't do it on my own. Fact-checking yourself is incredibly hard, and even with the staff we now have, there's still occasional misses. That's part of why we give citations and fact checks on every full episode we put out. That said, some of these takes are more than just misinformation. They're actively destructive if taken at face value. Let's get into it. Let's see. The first one is younger women are attracted to dark triad traits. Let's see what's going on here.
Younger women are more likely to be attracted to men who show dark triad traits. Narcissistic, Machiavellian, and psychopathic. People who have those traits are characterized by the mimicry of competence. And so what women want in men more than anything else is competent generosity.
Okay. All right, so there's Jordan Peterson kind of doing his thing a little bit. First, let's honor that someone else cut this clip up, not Dr. Peterson, so it may be more nuanced and a longer discussion. On the surface of it, this is mostly correct. There are studies showing that younger women, especially in short-term contexts, can rate men with dark triad traits as more attractive. But the explanation being offered here is off. The research doesn't actually show that women are attracted to psychopathy or narcissism because they signal competence. What it shows is that traits like confidence, boldness, and social dominance, which can overlap with dark triad personalities, can be compelling early on. The real variable here isn't gender, it's age and experience. Younger people are more easily pulled in by intensity and manipulation. As people age and gain discernment, attraction shifts towards competence plus kindness, stability, and emotional regulation. The danger of this framing is that men here, if you want women, become manipulative. And I don't believe that's the goal here, or one that Dr. Peterson would agree with if pressed. The real takeaway isn't to imitate the dark traits, it's to become genuinely competent as an adult, someone with skills, values, and emotional maturity, so you can build real adult relationships instead of short-term transactional ones. So that's that one. Let's take a look at what's next.
The key for a man is self-control. For women, it's authenticity. You have to stay authentic as possible because our body tells us so much. Our body will tell you when you're craving a child, when you're getting angry because our hormones are all over the place. For a man, your body sometimes speaks against you. It will crave pleasure. Your key to successful mental health is complete and utter self-control in terms of your mind, body, and soul. You control what you consume. You control who you put yourself into. You don't go and sleep with every single one. You actually gain far more self-esteem when you reject women than when you accept women. That man that has women that he's rejecting feels far greater than that man who can't say no to anybody because he's jumping at the opportunities. Self-control even with what you eat. When I have clients that come to me and they've got a bit of depression, I say to them, until you go to the gym, until you lose weight, there's no conversation that me and you can have that will change your self-esteem. It won't do it. Don't have to have a six-pack, but self-control. Now, when a man practices self-control, he becomes such an unshakable being.
That's close, but there's some stuff missing here. There's power in no and self-restraint, but framing it this way is a bit destructive. Men do have problems with impulse control when they're younger, but that mostly levels out by the time we're in our 30s and our frontal lobe catches up to women. The idea that men aren't as aware of our pulls as women is a problem. Our jobs as adults is to learn how our body responds, our desires, and move towards a life where those are in balance with our values, not pure control. This frame shames too many guys having basic desires. The idea that you gain self-worth primarily through rejecting women puts too much power in the responses of the world around you instead of your responses to the world. It gives too much to secondary relationships, women out in the world instead of women in your world, friends, lovers, mentors, family. The power of no leaves room for the power of yes to people and things more in alignment with the man you want to be. To her credit, in her broader work, she talks a lot about the importance of boundaries, self-worth, and not chasing validation. And that's a really useful point. But this one-liner version of the clip overstates it by implying rejection itself boosts self-esteem. So that's that one. Let's take a look. What's next? Men are biologically wired to think forward.
Glad we got geometry in our head. Let's see. think this will resonate with all of you. Harvard University locked a group of men in a room alone, 100 of them, and a group of women in a room alone, okay? And they said, what did you think about for 30 minutes? The men, no surprise, sex and sports. The young ladies, what did they think of for 30 minutes? They replayed conversations that they had in the last couple of days. For the record, a man has never replayed conversations that they've had.
I do that all the time.
Our brains are different, everybody.
Do you really not do that?
I feel like I overthink
No, of
everything.
course not.
You don't think about conversations.
You've never had like a shower argument or like shower thoughts or anything like that?
No, and that's not society, my friend. That is biology. You are wired to have those rethought. We aren't. It's not a learned behavior. It's not about dolls. It's not about dresses. Our biology, our brains are made differently. Men are very forward thinking. What is next? The job, the interview, tomorrow. And not saying women aren't. Women are very reflective. Women are better at the more relational type aspects of being a nurse or an elementary school teacher. Again, that's not learned behavior.
Yeah. Men may lean more towards direct, action-oriented thinking on average, but the idea that men don't self-reflect is both false and dangerous. It gives cover to bad behavior by treating accountability as a biological impossibility. This is a classic example of confusing descriptive averages within prescriptive rules. Small population-level tendencies are being used to explain and justify individual behavior. Yes, there are modest, average differences in how men and women process emotion and conversation, but those differences are widely overlapping and heavily shaped by context and training, not hardwired scripts. There's also internal inconsistency here that matters. The argument is coming from someone whose public career was built through debate and persuasion. In this case, Charlie Kirk. You don't get that good at public argument without treating conversation as a skill, something you replay, analyze, refine, and deliberately improve. There is no version of success that doesn't involve reflection on what was said, how it landed, and what could be done better next time. The deeper problem with this framing is that it quietly gives people an out from self-awareness and accountability. If you believe you're biologically wired not to reflect, you never have the practice of reflection. But reflection is how confidence is built. You don't get good at leadership, strategy, or decision-making without reviewing what you said, what you missed, and where you need to grow. In the military, we do after-action reports, hot washes, and systemic reviews of critical incidents to near obsessive degrees, because that's how performance improves and people stay alive. Saying men are wired to think forward and women are wired to reflect isn't just reductive, it's dangerous. Healthy humans do both. Men may lean one way on average and women may lean one way on the other, but maturity is the ability to do both across the full range. Thwarted belongingness and male suicide. Viewer discretion is advised. It's almost like it's suicide.
So the number one thing that correlates with male suicide is not depression. And this is super scary. There's one study I saw recently that suggests that 50% of men who kill themselves have no history or evidence of mental illness. I believe the statistic in my clinical practice because I know what depression looks like. I know what bipolar disorder looks like. And half the men that I've worked with, at least, are not actually mentally ill. See, mental illness means a pathology of the mind, which means that the mind is malfunctioning. Most of the suicidal men that I work with, their mind isn't malfunctioning. They genuinely have a life that is no longer worth living. They're looking at things and objectively realizing that there's no way out of this situation. So they turn to suicide. So I know it's kind of like a very controversial statement, but I think that's what my clinical practice has shown. And there's some research to even back that up. So if we sort of look at what's going on with men, they have nowhere to turn to. And the number one thing that correlates with it is not mental illness, but is a sense of thwarted belongingness. But basically what happens is what causes people to kill themselves is they try to connect with others and they get rejected.
Dr. K bringing the heat. I love Dr. K. We owe him a lot for getting good information in front of guys and speaking to their needs. I model a lot of what we're trying to do here off of his work, and he's spot on here. Men's issues are often overly focused on individual responsibility with little acknowledgement of the systems causing the struggles. This goes back to an adage I'm fond of. If a guy's living in his car, depression isn't his primary problem, he's living in a damn car. If we want to save more guys, we need to focus on both their internal process and skill and the systems and communities that are needed for fulfilled life. Gotta love Dr. K. He always brings the good stuff. Let's see what number 5 is gonna be. Men discouraged from vulnerability because women prefer them strong. A feeling I know who this is. Yeah.
I did not interview men for the first 4 years of my study. And it wasn't until a man looked at me one day after a book signing and said, "I love what you have to say about shame. I'm curious why you didn't mention men." And I said, "I don't study men." And he said, "That's convenient." And I said, why? And he said, because you say to reach out, tell our story, be vulnerable. But you see those books you just signed for my wife and my 3 daughters? I said, yeah. They'd rather me die on top of my white horse than watch me fall down. When we reach out and be vulnerable, we get the shit beat out of us. And don't tell me it's from the guys and the coaches and the dads. Because the women in my life are harder on me than anyone else.
Yeah, I love that she uses her platform for this and continues to do so. This is from Brene Brown's 2012 TED Talk. And that feeling has been omnipresent for most of the guys I've worked with in the last decade. What it doesn't speak to is that in the majority of cases, when my guys learn how to express their emotion effectively, the women in their lives usually step up and hear them. This usually comes down to guys getting so scared of being seen as weak that the only time they talk about insecurity is when they break, which leads to this cycle of ineffective communication confirming their fears, that women won't love you if they see all of you. Most guys have this fear, and it's founded. When we do it badly, it overwhelms relationships. I've lost loved ones and important people in this cycle, but I promise, if you get good, if you learn how to regulate and express your emotions and worries, people often show up in ways that astound you, and if they don't, it leaves room for those who will. I see it every week. And I love that she's just like doing a reaction video pointing at Brene Brown's awesomeness. I guess that works. 22 million. Okay. Let's see. Number 6. Marriage benefits for men compared to regular quote-unquote relationships. Okay.
Name one benefit that a man gets from a marriage that he wouldn't get in a regular relationship.
Just one.
I think a lot of men who choose to get married are incentivized by the fact that they are able to claim that woman as theirs. And
No, but name one benefit that they would
it'd help if you let her answer.
Get in a marriage that they wouldn't get in a regular relationship.
Well, I think even though it's not 100%, there's peace of mind that that woman is going to be loyal to you.
The answer is there's none. You're dancing around it. There is none. So my thing is this. I think it's in a man's best interest to stay Peter Pan, as you would say. And I think women shame men because men gain their value in their 40s. Men understand the sexual marketplace better. They understand that women have no leverage in their 40s. And they date down and they get younger, more attractive girls. And that's the best way to go in today's day and age where we live in a deregulated sexual marketplace where women could take everything they got, take their kids, etc. Why the hell would a guy want to commit to women nowadays?
Inflation, okay.
When, honestly, we got hoflation.
I think it's also setting a good example to children that you have a family nucleus, and I think there's something to be said about that.
Well, you can do that without the state getting involved in getting married.
You know what? I think
that was a little rough. The sexual marketplace. Some of the most isolated men I work with are actually started out being very successful in the sexual marketplace. Not because sex is bad, but because market-driven, unconnected sex doesn't build attachment. That kind of sex is like cotton candy in the relationship context. It tastes good, it's exciting, but it doesn't nourish you. And if it becomes the main thing, it often leaves you emptier than when you started. That's why this whole argument rests on an ineffective frame. Treating relationships like a market optimized for short-term success, not long-term well-being. By nearly every metric we have, health, happiness, stability, and long-term fulfillment, married men do better on average. And it's not just about living together. Marriage brings social recognition, shared norms, legal security, and a level of commitment that most informal relationships just don't replicate. Now, bad marriages can absolutely destroy people. That is real. But instead of using those cautionary stories as reasons to avoid commitment altogether, a healthier takeaway is this: choose carefully, build skill, and maintain a marriage worth having. All right, let's see where we up to next. 7, male depression is often treated like female depression. That's probably good.
He said that male depression gets treated like female depression. Men are made to feel loved and accepted when they want to feel capable and powerful. And the problem that we had there was that you were treating male depression and male mental health like female depression.
I had a brilliant upbringing. I've got great parents, great grandparents. And then I think about the lessons that my dad taught me. There's 2 things that really stand out. Once I rode my bike over my neighbour's lawn and he grabbed me around the scruff of the neck and he said, "You respect other people's property. You never do that again. You go and apologise." That for me was the male role model, was be tough, be strong, strong, be respectful. There's another one, and I remember when I'd done something wrong and I was so upset, and he just sat there and he went, what are you going to do about it? And that feeling of, Ben, you have to be strong, you have to take control of the situation, things have to be much more tangible. What are you going to do about it? I don't want someone just to sit there and stroke my ego and tell me that everything's going to be okay, and I'm okay the way I am, because I think that over a prolonged period of time can definitely lead to entitlement, and I don't think it's the right thing in the long term.
That's pretty good. This is largely right. We often miss men's depression and frame it as anger issues and substance abuse. It's a key point I cover when training clinicians on working with male patients. It's largely because, on average, women are better expressing their emotional experience than guys. The overall idea that men need some structure and focus to feel better is usually true in my experience. What we want to be careful of with this one is that it isn't one or the other. We need compassion and care balanced with self-efficacy and accountability. Competence without connection goes to dark, performative places, and compassion without efficacy is suffocating and disempowering. Without both, we lose guys. So this is solid, and I really like him telling stories about him and his dad. That always goes great when people touch those touchstones. Let's see, what's the next one we're gonna look at? Number 8, men and women's conversational orientation, 120 or 180. Yeah, this should be good.
Next time that you're at a party or any sort of gathering, look at the angle of the feet of women talking to women and of men talking to men. Women will talk to women 180 degrees. They'll be face to face. Whereas men, the average is 120 degrees. Once you see that, you can't not see it. And it's a rule that works across so many different things. The Men's Sheds initiative in Australia, did you see that? It was an initiative by the Australian government, I think, to try and improve men's mental health. They realized that getting men to sit down in a room and talk like this about their problems didn't work. So what they did is they built sheds that men came to, and then the men would bring, like, I've got this knackered lawnmower and everyone needs to help fix it. So how are men talking? They're talking whilst their front brain is focused on this thing that's in front, and they are shoulder to shoulder, not face to face. They're literally in a circle, and everyone's like, right, you've got the good drill, and he's got the good spanner, and I've got the hammer or whatever, and let's fix this thing. And dude, me and the missus were not getting on well, and before you know it, it's a therapy session mediated by this fucking lawnmower.
Nice. I like a therapy session mediated by a lawnmower. Let's see here. This is largely true and a point I'll often make. Many men connect more comfortably shoulder to shoulder through some kind of shared activity within a mutual outward focus, while many women connect more easily face to face through direct conversation and emotional exchange. You can feel this difference immediately. When I square up face to face with a lot of men, there's a subtle tension that most guys can name when it's pointed out. That's why in therapy rooms, we often angle the chairs that are closer to that 120 degree position. It lowers intensity and makes it easier to talk. What's usually missed, though, is that these aren't endpoints. Side-by-side connection is often a ramp for those deeper face-to-face intimate conversations with direct emotional connection, and that direct emotionally connected communication can become a bridge to shared activity. There are plenty of women who bond deeply through doing things together, and plenty of men who form powerful, emotionally direct relationships without any activity as scaffolding. The postures differ, but the goal is the same: trust, safety, and connection. This is a good clip. Let's see what's next. Men avoid women because they've found peace.
Men saying, I've just decided altogether to avoid women. That it's better to be single, guys. They're almost like happy about the fact that they're gonna make the choice to avoid the entire gender of women because they have yet to actually resolve the war they have within themselves.
It is not because they're fighting a war within themselves. It is because they found peace with themselves. And she was so close. She was just so close to getting there, because at least she's recognizing what men are saying. Because they're tired of the complaining, the double standards, the expectations, and the risk of losing everything that they've built. There is no unresolved internal war going on in these men. He just found peace and contentment on his own instead of using that energy and effort on someone else.
Okay. This is a take on a take, and it gets a little sideways. Between the two, the first explanation is actually closer to the truth. It's very common for men with negative and painful relationship patterns to need time on their own. Stepping back can create real peace, especially if past relationships were marked by double standards, unspoken expectations, and chronic conflict. Where this frame becomes dangerous is when peace alone is treated as the destination instead of the training ground. Solitude can help you notice unreasonable demands, clarify your standards, and rebuild your self-respect, but it's not where growth is meant to stop. If you're a man who feels the weight of unfair expectations or relational pressure, that discomfort is useful information. Take the time to learn yourself, to regulate, and to find peace on your own, but then take that peace back into the world and use it to build the best relationships of your life. I see this transition all the time in my work. It's one of my favorite moments to witness. When guys take that time, they get themselves together, and then they go out and find people worth connecting with. It's beautiful. Don't get trapped in this idea that the isolated man is peaceful and happy. We're not meant to be alone. All right, let's take a look at next one. Let's see here. This might be the last one. Men don't praise each other directly. Okay. Let's see.
So my favorite example of how men communicate differently is the negative expression of a positive affection. So when we like someone and we're proud of one of our homies or our bros,
I always like when he says homie and bros. I don't know why.
we don't say that to them, right? In fact, what we do is we kind of dog them about it. If my friend has been single for a while after a bad breakup and starts dating someone else, and I feel really proud and good about that, I don't say, hey friend, I'm really proud of you, and I'm proud that you've been able to find someone who sees the lovable qualities within you that I see. I'm proud that you found someone who treats you the way that I think you deserve to be treated. In the history of humanity, I do not think that sequence of words has ever been spoken by a single man. That's not what we say. What do? We say, bruh, GG noob, you're whipped. I guess we'll never see you again. And we're smiling the whole time. We're not like, I know you haven't been texting me. I feel hurt. Instead, what we do is we actually dog on this guy. We'll say all this like misogynistic crap, but the whole time we're like expressing appreciation and smiling at him.
Yeah. Dr. K is bringing good information again here. Ball busting is absolutely a real part of masculine communication, especially in environments with high risk, pressure, or performance demands. In those contexts, teasing is a way guys test each other, pass along information, establish trust, and have fun without escalating emotional exposure. Over time, men learn to feel the difference between good-natured ball busting and actual bullying, even though that distinction can be very hard to see from the outside. That's part of why masculine environments can feel so confusing or even hostile to people who aren't socialized in them. I've done separate work just on how to host non-masculine folks in those spaces because the rules are subtle and easy to miss. The key clarification though, and I'm sure that Dr. K would agree with me, is that ball busting is not the only way men connect. Healthy men need a full range of connections. That might include joking with the guys, but it also includes having at least one person in your life that you can sit across from and directly say, I'm proud of myself, I'm struggling, or I'm scared. When men only have one mode of connection, we lose them. That range is what keeps men connected. And it's something that I don't think it's talked about enough. I think we always want to frame it as this very one way or the other. It's not. You need both. But this one's valid. It's a piece of us. And it should give a little bit more credence than it's given. Well, and I think that's the last of them. If it's not, I'm sure the team will let me know and I'll throw another one in here. Just like we said at the beginning, this stuff is hard. Coming up with short form content that is both useful and doesn't hurt anybody is really tricky. Even with a full team and a fact checker, we still get it messed up. Most of these folks are great creators that have helped out a lot of people. And this is just kind of the dangers of short form content. You can't get the nuance in there. I hope this was useful for you. You all have been really helpful in keeping us honest. Some of the comments that we got early on are a big part of why I finally hired a fact checker to make sure that we get it right. Please keep doing that. And this one's no different. What did I get wrong? What did I get right? Is there anything that I missed some nuance on? Leave it in a comment. You're probably speaking for what another guy sees, and maybe you'll start a conversation that helps us do better. I really appreciate you watching. This is Tim Winnicky with American Masculinity, wishing you the very best day. Take care.